Everyone, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. Today, we are exploring how to stay out of the jar. That's judgments, attachments, reactions, and resistance. When we're out of the jar, guess what we're in? Peace, love, joy, and harmony. Yeah, it's that simple. Or is it? Let's explore. I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and I love helping people love their life and live their passion, especially by integrating spirit, mind, and body. When we remember the truth of our being, who and what we are, that we are spirit, that we are made in the image and likeness of spirit itself. When we remember the truth of our being, who and what we are, we realize that our awareness, our consciousness, our love, peace, and joy, the things that cannot be seen or touched or measured by the senses, that is more real than anything out there. So as you listen to this podcast, I'm going to ask that question I usually ask: who are you being? Who are you being right now? Are you being open? Are you excited to hear something that just might change your life forever and inspire you and motivate you and move you into a greater expression of who and what you are, your purpose, your mission, your goals in life? Because that's what it takes, is that question of who am I being? And we're going to explore that today as we ask, how do we stay out of the jar, the judgments, attachments, resistance, and reaction? And what happens when we are out of the jar, experiencing love, peace, joy, and harmony? We're in the flow of life itself. When we're in that flow, we experience just a simple peace and harmony. It's funny, the things that we allow ourselves to be in judgment about, the things that kind of knock us off our center. We'll let the weather, we wake up and it's storming, and today's the day we wanted to go to the beach. It's our only real day off with the family or the kids or the aunt or the uncle, whatever it is. And we were going to go on the boat or on the beach or up the mountain. And today it's raining, it's pouring, and we're judging that already. We're in this idea that something's wrong, that we can't get what we want. But if we really, truly looked at what we want, we were planning the beach day or the boat day or the hike up into the mountains. What is it that we wanted from that experience? To be close to with whoever we were going. If we were going by ourselves, maybe it's that sense of being out in nature, being connected to nature. Maybe it was physical fitness, doing something, skiing behind the boat. Any of these things, we look at what was our ultimate goal. And the fact is, the simple truth is that we can still get what we wanted regardless of the weather. But our judgments give us moments or sometimes hours and sometimes days, weeks, and months and years of being in a bad mood. And for what reason? When we look at things in a new way, which I've talked about in this series, Following Your Bliss, When we look at things in a new way, we realize that we can be at peace, in love, in joy, in harmony. We can satisfy the desire to be at one with nature, even if it's raining. We can be at one with our physical fitness, even if we can't go outside. Maybe it's too hot or too cold or whatever's happening. So as we let go of our judgments, we allow inspiration to move us into what's next. It's that simple. I won't say it's always easy, because these judgments are very quick to come. We often don't feel like we have a choice. It's like, this happened, or I can't do this now. We go right into a negative moment, and we might even call a friend, and we might both talk about how negative this situation is, or how awful it is that it's raining or storming or thundering or whatever else it's doing, snowing. And so we get caught up in it because that is our go-to formula. It's our past conditioning. Maybe a parent was like that, or siblings, or a past partner. Our current partner might be like that, where they find, something negative, and it often, when I find myself doing it, whether it's the weather and I was planning on a boating day, or going out into nature, and it's like, oh, I'll be sitting inside, maybe paying the bills, right? It's a good day to pay the bills when it's storming. I find myself, I start laughing that I'm going to let the weather make me feel bad. I'm going to judge the weather as wrong. And I'm going to spend a moment or moments or a half an hour or an hour or a day, like kind of in this bad, grumpy mood. Really? I mean, are we really going to let the weather affect us? And I know I'm starting out small here, right, with the weather, because we do that with weather. We do that with traffic. It's like, the traffic again. Well, if we're saying again, that means we might as well expect the traffic to be, traffic the way it is, and not think that our mood has to depend on how the traffic is. So we're judging things as good for us or bad for us, right for us or wrong for us. We're judging things as things that are going to be helpful for us, or they're going to give something to us, or they're going to take something from us. Right? It's like, this person is asking too much of me. I'm going to judge them. They're needy, or I'm going to avoid them because I don't want them to ask me for a favor to do this or do that. I don't want them to take my time or my energy or my thoughtfulness. I want to keep all that to myself. So we're constantly judging what is coming into our lives. If we're not aware of our judgments, we certainly can't change them. And what happens when we're judging things as good or bad, right or wrong? If it's good, we're happy, aren't we? Oh, it's a beautiful day. I get to go do this, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to be in a good mood. But what happens when it's not the day that we plan, not the weather that we plan? We're going to be in a bad mood. We'll watch our partner do that. You're going to be in a bad mood just because it's raining, and we live in North Florida. It's going to rain like a lot. Subtropical climate. It rains a lot here. So to allow ourselves to feel a certain way and to think certain thoughts which bring those feelings up is, when we talk about it in this way, it's ridiculous, right? It sounds funny and silly when I'm saying it. And yet that's what we do. That's what the mind will do if left unattended. It's like a toddler, got to be careful, or a puppy, be careful what you leave around, because it'll go for it and start chewing it and destroying it and making a mess. Well, that's our ego. It's going to judge things and think that something is taking away from our good. So that is judgments, and I'll go into all of them just a little bit. Attachments. This is a big one, and usually it's on bigger situations. We get very attached to the way things are. We get very attached to the way our office is set up. We get attached to the way our kitchen is set up, or how we are with our children or our spouse or our parents. Everything has to be just so that I'm comfortable being who I am. Right? We're attached to the way things are or the way we want them to be. We could be attached on not allowing anything new to come in. Sometimes we have friend groups where someone introduces a new friend and we're just like, oh, they want to spend time with that person, really? That's a judgment. But we're attached to the structure of the way things are. We get attached to our looks. We get attached to our waist size. We get attached to the food that we're eating or the way that we're enjoying food or drink or any other thing. We get attached to our kids and what happens when they grow up and move out. It can cause a lot of problems when we attach ourselves. We get attached to our health and we get the sudden diagnosis and we're devastated and we cannot manage to find any sense of ourself or our peace, our love, our joy within when we get that diagnosis because we're so attached to what we used to be able to do. Same with age. It's like I used to be able to run 14 miles. I used to be able to surf on these waves. I used to be able to do this, that, and the other and travel and whatever it was. And now when we can't, we just go into a funk of like, well, I can't do that anymore, so I'm going to be miserable. It doesn't have to be that way. When we let go of attachments, we allow for the energy of spirit to guide us into the joy and the love and the peace that is right in front of us, waiting for us to experience in a new way. Even if our body has shifted and changed, even if our circumstances have shifted and changed, if our home has changed, if our environment has changed, if our spouse has left us, if we were attached to everything exactly the way it was, we will feel devastated. But when we allow ourselves to move in the flow of life, we will find a new way of being with what is. That's exciting, always. It's never not exciting. It's always moving us into a greater expression of who we are because who we are is eternal and unlimited. When we are attached to the physical ways of expressing ourselves, then those can change. They will absolutely change. And when they do, we cannot find ourselves moving with the flow. So that's attachments. And then we have reactions. Oh, reactions. Boy, that's a tough one, right? I use this, they're all forms of resistance, but I use reactions because it's such a good reminder when someone's speaking to us or something, it could be the news, it could be our partner or child, it could be a person at the grocery store, and we find ourselves just tensing. We find ourselves just ready we already know what we're going to say. We are in reaction mode. We're going to defend, deny, we're going to just not admit, we're going to change the subject. We're going to react. And that means we're not responding. We're not breathing. We're not taking it in. We're actually not really even listening. If we're reacting, we're actually not hearing what is being said because the words are not what is trying to be communicated, whether it's from us or another. It's what's beneath the words. It's what's underneath. There's something that wants to be communicated. And when we're reacting, we can't hear that. We're only listening to a word that triggered us and made it turn that into a denial or a defensiveness or the belief that you have it wrong and I have it right. So you need to listen to me. And that's These are reactions, and we find ourselves in that situation with the little things and the big things. But what it can just serve as this wonderful reminder when we find ourselves going, just ready to react. It's like, oh, look at that. I'm all tense. I'm ready to defend. I'm ready to, I'm pulling out the sword and getting ready to defend myself. And it's like, what did you say? Because it sounded like you said this, but I just wanted to be sure and find out what's really being communicated, what's really being said that we're reacting to. And we can ask ourselves that, what am I really reacting to? Is it what's being said or what's wanting to be communicated? Or is this reminding me of a past situation? Or do I find myself always getting defensive at work with this one particular person? I'm always defending myself. What's that about? We don't have to ask them. We never have to ask them or that or those people. It's never outside of us. If we remember that it's always within, it's always our choice. So that's another reminder when we are in reaction. And then all of these in general are resistant. We're resisting life as it shows up. What is showing up? The weather, the traffic, the boss, the employee, the coworker, the accountant telling us we owe a heck of a lot more money than we thought we did. That's never going to be fun. But resisting it or reacting to it or judging it, how in the world would that serve us? How does that bring us peace, love, joy, and harmony in our life? But when we breathe and we're listening and we're in a mode of allowing what is, we're just allowing. It's like, this is happening. We can even say that. It's like, wow, look at this. This is happening right now. This is happening in this moment. The traffic is stopped in the middle of the day for what appears in my conscious awareness to be no reason. There is a reason, clearly, but for me, I'm not aware of it. And rather than react, judge, or freak out, have anxiety or stress that I'm not going to make my appointment, it's what is. This is what is happening. Why resist? Why be angry and upset when it is? Because there's nothing worth our peace of mind. Just ask yourself, what is worth that either low grade anxiety, low grade disappointment, low grade just annoyance, or of course, it moves up in scale, doesn't it? All the way up to full blown out hysteria. What good can that possibly do when we're in sort of this lockdown of judgments, attachments, reactions, and resistance? And then we can ask ourselves, because that brings, as I just pointed out, a lot of symptoms, stress, anxiety, anger, annoyance, all these things. But what's the opposite? So we ask ourselves, what if I allow? What if I let go of resistance in this moment while this person is yelling at me, while I'm getting a ticket, while I'm paying my accountants, while I'm taking money out of this account or that savings that was going to the vacation and now it's going to taxes? What if I was in allowance? What if I breathed into this? And I'm grateful that I have the money to pay this bill. What if I just sit in breathing with this and finding one thing to be grateful for, my breath, my ability to not react in this moment? What if I'm just grateful for that and I breathe into that right now? What if I take a 10-minute walk out in nature before I have to sit down and pay those bills or call the next doctor for the next appointment or the second opinion for the diagnosis? what if we just allow ourselves to expand and expand and expand, because that's what spirit is. Spirit as us is infinite possibilities. When we contract, we're contracting into the finite situation that already is. It's right here. We can see it. We sense it. We feel it. We can describe it. We can talk about it. We can write it down. It's right here. And as we allow that, it's just silly not to. It is what it is. It's a wonderful saying. It is what it is. But we don't have to say that there's nothing for us to do. Then it's like, who am I being? Who do I need to be to bring greater awareness to this situation? How can I bring a greater clarity to this situation? Who can I call? I'll allow spirit to inform me of the next steps while I just take 15 minutes with my favorite music on, or chanting, or silence, whatever, or that walk in nature. And I allow myself to be inspired, which is in spirit. And as we are in spirit, our true nature, and we are inspired, there comes a thought, an idea. Sometimes it might not even seem relevant. It might be call your mother. It might be call your son who's in California. And you pick up the phone just thinking it's a distraction, but that was your impulse to call this person. And there's something in that conversation that is enlightening. And it reminds you of some other thing. And now you're taking another step in the resolution of this situation that is appearing in your life. So that is one of my fun little acronyms: staying out of the jar, the judgments, attachments, reactions, and resistance. So when we're aware that there's a jar, we're aware of what it feels like. I can promise you, it feels just the slightest tension when we hold our breath a little bit, when we're clenching. For me, the shoulders kind of rise up, and there's a contraction going on. Some of us get that, pit in the stomach, or the pit in our throat. We feel like the throat is contracting. Whatever that is for you, notice the early signs. And of course, the bigger signs are pretty easy to notice in our body when we get the stress and the stress headaches and the tension in our shoulders and the shoulder aches. When we're aware of them rising, we know we are not in our alignment. We're not in alignment with spirit. We're shrinking, contracting into mind and body. And as soon as we allow what is and release the tension through breathing, through yoga, through qigong, we release that, we allow that connection to our highest self, to source, to spirit, and we are guided infinitely to infinite possibility. And in that infinite possibility, we can ask, is there the possibility for clarity, for wisdom, for resolution in this situation? And the answer is always yes, yes. And spirit not only says, yes, there's a possibility for that, but if you take this step and then this one and this one, spirit, love, life will guide you every step of the way. You never have to do anything alone. There isn't alone, there's all one. So when we know there's a jar, we know what it feels like when we're in the jar. We know what we can do to stay out of the jar. And the first steps are allowing and breathing and contemplating. And when I say contemplating, I really mean being with the situation without the need to change it. So contemplating means, for me, meditation, it's a silent way of being and allowing the situation. And when I am in that contemplative mode, I know that the solution appears. I know it does, because I can look at my entire life and realize I have never, ever been stuck in that moment. Everything has changed. Everything has moved. Everything has moved me into this place where I am right here and right now, this place of love, peace, joy, and wholeness. So when we know that, we are being guided and directed into an expansion of who and what we are as love, as peace, and as joy, in harmony with all of the events that are happening in our lives, all the situations, all the relationships, we can allow, we can breathe, and then contemplate, knowing that the perfect solution comes up. Those are the ABCs: allowing, breathing, contemplating. So stay out of the jar and think about the ABCs, and you'll do fine. I hope you liked this podcast. If so, please hit the like button and subscribe and share it with a friend. Maybe they are ready to step out of the jar and allow, breathe, and contemplate the infinite possibilities that move us into a greater expression of who we are, integrating spirit, mind, and body. You can find out more about me and these concepts on my website, elizabethcantey.com, and certainly in my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. It's on Amazon. I hope you spend this week laughing, loving, and living enlightened every day, staying out of the jar and into the ABCs. It's that easy.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for Living Enlightened with Elizabeth Cantey. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.